This empty chair represents the addict who died today, not knowing recovery was possible.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of The Empty Chair, Exposing Addiction. Hopefully you've been following our series over the last, 8 months now. And as always, we'd like to thank MCTV and our volunteers for giving us the opportunity to come here and do this show. Also, as I told you, I think it was last month, a lot of people who can't see it because they don't live in Methuen, we're also on YouTube now, and it's if you search The Empty Chair Show, you'll be able to get all of our previous episodes and be all caught up with what we're trying to do. Basically, all we're trying to do is bring awareness to the disease of addiction. And some of the comments I've been getting is, all the shows we've had, I've been the only male on it. So people were starting to wonder if the guys didn't do recovery. So you ask and we shall receive. So we have some guys here, and Colleen's going to introduce them.
Hi, my name's Colleen, and I'm an addict in recovery, and I don't know, I love doing this show. You know, The Empty Chair, I don't know if I mentioned it the past couple of shows, but The Empty Chair represents the addict that died today, not knowing recovery is possible. And I don't know, we have had a lot of women on the show, which is a beautiful thing, but men do recover too. And we got 3 of them right here. We have Jonathan, and Jace. And I don't know, I guess we'll just start with, maybe when you first started using, how old you were, a little bit of background.
History.
Whoever wants to start.
Brief history in the dark days. And
yeah.
We'll start with Jonathan, number 1.
I'm Jonathan, I'm an addict. I'm in recovery today. Gratefully, for the grace of God, I'm in recovery today. For me, I don't know, I was a kid and I started using, and I couldn't tell you where I really crossed that line, but I crossed it. My life became unmanageable, and it took a while. It took about, I was 21, and then I got clean when I was 21. I'm 32 now, and I stayed clean for almost 3 years. And I had used OxyContin, and then after I had relapsed, the disease is progressive, and I picked up the needle, and that's when everything really started to change for me. I really just didn't care anymore about what was going on and what really happened to me. I was angry. I was full of shame and guilt, partly because, I was clean, but my life was unmanageable clean. And I really didn't understand the scope and the gravity of how much damage I can do clean. I didn't get that was a big piece. I just thought that the drugs and the alcohol was my problem. And that's for my opinion, it's a common misconception around 12-step recovery programs. There's a few fellowships that they talk about. That's a common misconception. That was a big misconception for me. And I ended up in the methadone clinic for 3 years. And that was when my life really took a turn for the worst. Homelessness, I really just settled for less. I was a zombie. It really was. I was incoherent, and I was just so far gone from reality, what was going on in my life. I had twins during that period of time, and I was a disaster. I was a mess. And the reason I was a mess is because I didn't understand that I suffered from mental illness, the disease of addiction. I didn't suffer from heroin or methadone or alcohol or crack cocaine. I didn't suffer from that. It worked good for what was wrong with me, but what really helped me this time is I was desperate. I didn't want to live anymore. I didn't want to die anymore, and I knew that there was another way to live with 12-step recovery, and I got involved in that. And that's when my life didn't start to change, I started to change. My thinking started to change. The way I perceived people, places, and things started to change. The way I looked at myself started to change. And because I realized that I wasn't a bad person, there was a lot of other people who thought the way I did. Because the way I thought is what ruined me. Mm-hmm. The way I thought that, people should act around me, and that people should behave around me, and they should do what I want them to do. And, this is what I came to find out, that I had a pattern of behaviors my entire life because I was scared.
Thank you.
And that's really what happened. So when I got involved with that, and that brought me closer to a divine being, a spiritual being, whatever you want to say for myself. And that's when my life started to change.
A couple things that you said I could definitely identify with, just with being on the methadone clinic and feeling like a zombie. I was definitely there. I thought it was going to help me, but you know, I ended up abusing it more. And as soon as you said zombie, it just brought me like right back there.
Yeah.
And when you said that, you know, that you're not a bad person, that's why the show is important, because it's like we're not bad people, like we're just sick people who did bad things.
Yep.
You know, so we got to not keep it on a moral issue. So I'm glad you brought that up. All right, Jonathan, you want to give us a little background?
For me, I started early with like drinking and smoking weed when I was like 11 years old, and I ran with that for a long time. Like that's all I did for a long time. Like I was really against drugs. My older sister was a drug addict, and I saw what it did, so I kind of stayed away from that for a long time. And like I always thought, like, you know, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but looking back at it now, like I drank alcoholically from the time I was 11. Like anytime like I had a chance to drink, I would, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. And you know, all through high school, that's what I did. I mean, I did drugs here and there, but not really. Like I do like some cocaine here and there, but that was really it. And I don't know. I got out of high school. I tried college for a little bit. That didn't work out. I went home and I was bored. I had nothing else to do, and like it was just around. So you know, I started doing OxyContins. Ran with that for a little bit, probably around the time I was like 21. And I don't know. Like I just kept doing it, like for years, like all of a sudden one day, like I didn't have anything and I got sick and I didn't even know I was sick. And like that's when I really got to the point when stuff was bad, because I realized that if I didn't have it, like there was going to be an issue. So, you know, my whole day, everything revolved around getting that next one, because if I didn't have it, I was going to be sick and miserable and I didn't want to feel that way. And like at first, like I didn't really think that I was running from anything. Like it was just something that I thought, you know, I was doing, I liked it, it was fun, but you know, it really was just an escape. Like it just shut my brain off. I didn't have to think about anything because I was miserable where I was in my life at the time. And I don't know, that's about a year or two into that, that's when I started the detoxes, the programs. And I remember the first time I went to detox, for some reason all I wanted to do, because all anybody was talking about was shooting heroin, and I hadn't done that at that point. I was probably like 23 at this time, and like the day I got out of detox, I started shooting heroin.
Wow.
And that was right around the time they got rid of the OxyContins, and it was like, you know, you got to make that choice. It's either, you know, get clean, do perk 30s, or do heroin. And like I was so messed up in the mind at that time, it's like obvious choice is to do heroin. And you can only do that so long before you get to the needle, and then that becomes another addiction, not even the drug, the needle. And it's just, stuff got crazy, and, you know, detoxes programs. And like honestly, the thing that got me like to you know, try and get sober, like I was out of money. I had nothing to do. I had nowhere to go. And you know, I got to that point where like I went to detox. I had no plans of getting sober. I was just trying to figure out what I was gonna do. And I ended up putting in for the HEAT program. Was upstairs of Danvers Detox, and I put in for that because I didn't think I was gonna get in. And I got in, and I'm like, damn. So I went there. And
Oh God!
I remember going upstairs and. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm going to stay here till I feel all right, and then I'm going to leave. And I don't know, something about the counselors there, they, like, really, you know, made me think about things and, like, where I was in my life and, like, where I wanted to be, and it was two completely separate things. And it kind of gave me, like, that hope to actually try and do something with myself. And that's when I went to my first halfway house, and I ended up going to the Link House. And when I went there, like, that was kind of like my first like real try at recovery. So not that I didn't take it serious, but like I thought I could do what I wanted to do. I'm at a halfway house. Just being here is gonna get me sober. And you know, I didn't change myself. I didn't change anything. You know, I was just there for the ride. And you know, I have a lot more issues than just drug addiction. And you know, I have a serious anger problem, and that ended up getting me kicked out. I did some things that I'm not proud of, but it happened. And you know, I got kicked out, and I kind of. You know, when I got home, I had about 6 months clean at the time, and I went to a meeting the first day I got home, and I said, you know what, I'm good. As long as I stay away from the drugs, I'll be all right. So next weekend, I'm out drinking. Next weekend, doing perk 30s. Next weekend, I'm sitting there with a needle in my arm again. And I got to the point, like, everything within a matter of a couple of weeks, I was right back to where I started. And, you know, I overdosed for the first time. And I remember being in the hospital, and, like, a year and a half ago, my sister overdosed and passed away. And I just remember sitting in that hospital and, you know, thinking about my mother, like, how can I put her through this? Like, what she's gone through, like, and to do that to her again. And, like, I wish I could say I didn't get high after that point, but I did. But that kind of was a turning point where I realized, like, I really need to do something with myself. And not so much that it was, like, for her, it's for myself, but, like, I don't want to have to put her through that, because the way I use, I'm going to die. Like, because when I'm out there, I don't even care if, you know, I'm so hopeless, like, if I die, like it wouldn't have been a problem for me. Not that I was suicidal, but like I just didn't care about anything.
You know about that, huh?
And
Yeah, a little bit.
you know, I called. I was like trying to get caught, but I didn't know how to tell my mother I was getting high again. Like it was just, I didn't know how to do it, and so I'd leave things out to get caught on purpose. And like it took like a month, and she finally like was in my room and got like a baggie stuck to her foot, and she flipped out, and like half of me was like, oh, I'm caught, whatever, but the other half was like so relieved that I could finally go to a program, because that's what I really wanted to do. Like I was done with this. And my sister, my oldest sister, you know, she was like, what are you gonna do? I said, I'm gonna go back to detox, go back to the link house, whatever. She said, you never do anything you say you're gonna do. So she made me sign a contract. She made a contract, like go to detox, go to a program, whatever, whatever. And so I signed it. And, you know, I went back to the link house, and I really, at that point, you know, for the first month, I was kind of joking around, getting in trouble, getting on restrictions. And they called me in the office, and they said, why are you here? Like, what are you really trying to do? Mm-hmm. And at that point, like, I really asked myself, what am I trying to do? You know what I mean? And, you know, I was at that point, I want to change my life. I'm 26 years old, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be, and me getting high is not going to help that. It's only making things worse. Like, I can't run from my problems anymore. I need to deal with them and, you know, move on with my life. Like, it's time to grow up. And, you know, I just started, you know, putting in the work, trying to change myself and change my behaviors, because if I didn't change the person I brought in there, the person I brought in there is the person that gets high. Mm-hmm. You know, and, you know, I'm nowhere near now where I need to be, but, you know, I'm trying to work the process. You know, I graduated the Link House. I'm at a sober house now at the Progress House. I've been there for about 7.5 months.
Nice.
You know, I do my meetings. I'm back in school. You know, I just had no dreams or hopes about anything. And you know, getting sober, you kind of clear your head up and get to look at your life and realize where you are, like where you want to be and what you need to do to get there. And the process I'm going through now is kind of helping me do that.
You gotta love those moments of clarity where like your higher power, whatever it is, like works in your life, and you start thinking about your mother, and then you know, when you got in trouble or whatever, and they're like, you know, what are you doing here? And then you actually like, you know, question yourself, like, what am I doing here? Like my life's got to be made for something like more than this right now. So you gotta love when God's like working in your life when you don't even realize it. Jace, a little backstory.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I like picked up before I even picked up, you know, when I was younger. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it really started with like, I always felt like indifferent and like abnormal, you know what I'm saying? Like I always wanted to fit in with people, and I was like always like chubby when I was younger. And I can remember like being really young, and I really loved fast food, and I would eat. Like my mom would bring home fast food for me after we'd eat dinner, and I'd be stuffed, and I'd stuff my face, and I'd watch the same show every single time that I'd eat like fast food, you know, like rituals, you know what I'm saying? Like the drug rituals too. And you know, I was always spoiled as a child. I was an only child, and like, you know, everything that I wanted, I always wanted more of, and I always felt like there was something missing when there was nothing missing, you know, like I always had that void in my gut, like my whole life. And you know, I can recall, you know, my parents were both in a 12-step program. It was always around my house. I knew about meetings. I remember going to meetings when I was like 8 years old and stuff. I didn't know exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And I can recall the first time I ever got high, you know, my dad ended up, you know, smoking weed here and there. And I remember stealing his weed, like I think I was like 13 years old, and smoking it and absolutely hating it. Like just hating it. And they talk a lot about insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, you know. And I remember hating smoking weed. I hated the way I felt, and the next day I smoked some weed again, you know, just to get out of myself. You know, and like I stopped doing drugs after that. Like you know, I experimented with weed, and I remember then my dad passed away when I was like around 15, and you know, my mom dealt with it differently than I did, you know, and she did her own thing, I did my own thing, and pretty much I had the house to myself the whole time. And you know, I started with alcohol. I was the kid who threw the parties, you know, and once the parties went away, all the friends went away, and I don't know, it just kept on building up, like pills in high school, and anything to get me out of myself. And then finally, I think I was around 19. And I just felt like my life was just completely out of control and unmanageable. And I talked to my mom about going to detox. Now, when I first went there, I thought, like, you just go to detox and rehab and, like, everything's just all good. Cured. You know what I'm saying? You get out and you're cured. And that's what I thought I had to do. So I got out and I went to a 12-step meeting. And I remember everybody, like, hugged me. and made me like, and they like all chanted in a circle and like started saying prayers and stuff. And I was like, this is a cult. I'm not coming back to here. I freaked out. I was petrified of it. But something kept me going there. And you know, eventually, like it just, I ended up getting high again. You know, like just my life, like my situation got lower and lower. You know, I never had to go to jail, thank God. I never, you know, went to the needle, but you know, my life was just completely unmanageable, you know? And I finally got really like involved in a 12-step program in recovery when I was 20 years old. I remember because one night, you know, I took a bunch of pills and like it just wasn't working the way it was working before. And I prayed for the first time, and I'm like, it's such like a foreign idea for me to pray still to this day. And I prayed that I'd have a productive day and that I wouldn't get high the next day. And I woke up that next day at 8 o'clock. I went to the gym, I got a job, and I didn't get high all day. So like that's like when I like was kind of like, you know, maybe there's something out there looking for me. And I started going back to meetings because like I said, something just drew me in. And I was constantly like, I went to meetings for like probably like a good like 2 weeks, and then you know, they say don't let things that you get in recovery take you out of recovery, you know. And I got a car, I had the job, and I got a girlfriend. So I was like completely, you know, away from all of that. Like I had a girlfriend. So like that kept me out of myself all the time. And eventually the girlfriend went, and the car went, and the job went, and I was getting high again. I didn't change anything about myself.
Yep.
And, you know, just everything kept on progressing. I would try to get clean, and like I would hang out with old friends. I'd be in the old same places that I was, and that void was always there. It was still there, you know. Like even when I was high or when I wasn't high, it was just there. And you know, getting high like shut it off for a little bit, but once it was gone, you know, it's
So
worse.
when did you get to the point you say, I've had enough?
I ended up probably like 4 months ago, 3.5 months ago, I did a certain type of drug that my mom was completely against. And she looked at me and like, I never thought I affected people by getting high. And you know, I looked in her eyes and she was just broken by it. And she said, you know, you have to get out. You can't stay here anymore.
Oh.
And
Sounds familiar.
you know, you can't stay here. And I don't know, I went for a long drive, and I tossed the rest of my stuff out the window, and somebody was telling me about a new sober house that was opening up and where I'm from, and you know, I moved in, and you know, I started doing the right thing, and the right thing started coming back to me. You know, like
How important is it to change, like you were talking about, like, you know, when you, the old friends and stuff like that?
Huge.
Like, how important is that, I mean, people, places, and things to, like,
Huge.
change those things? Because
And
I
I'm-
know for me, like, old friends, if that's what you even want to, like, call them,
Yeah.
just people I used with, basically, I would stay connected to these people because it was familiar, you know, because you come into recovery and everything's new, you got to meet new people and all this stuff, and it's kind of hard at first, you know,
Yeah.
especially fear, doubt, and insecurity running rampant with this disease, and, you know, kind of keep going back to, like, the old and familiar, even though it's dangerous.
I still struggle with it. I still definitely struggle with it too. Like, I'm not perfect. I still sometimes hang out with my old friends, and when I do, I feel miserable when
Yeah.
I'm done. And you know, but it's my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I have to start getting out of my comfort zone.
Well,
Yeah.
you brought up your mother, and that's because I belong to support groups of families for what you gentlemen put us through. And here's what I'd like to ask you. Number one, hopefully your relationship with your families are good now. But like most parents, I'm going to take a wild guess at yours. Did they try to fix you? Did they try to, you know, make you do things that you weren't ready to do, so forth like that? What kind of an impact did your parents have as far as not getting you clean? And what did kind of an impact, if any, did they have? And maybe you starting to say, you know, maybe it's about time. Because I know Colleen's story.
My mother never enabled me. When I was a kid, I was out at 17. See you later. And my father was a heroin addict, so he was never around. He got clean for about 11 years, my father, and he relapsed. And now he's got 12 years clean again, and he's involved in the 12-step process. He's a changed person. You know, what they talk about in the material, he's not the same person. And, you know, Johnny was there when he chaired. I had him come chair a meeting for me. And I chaired the meeting, he came to speak. And you know, the guy that I used to hate and resent is the guy that I want to be now.
Wow.
You know, because he's a changed person. Like
Yeah.
the recovery he has, like he helps a lot of guys out through the 12-step process. You know, for me, the type of addict and, you know, alcoholic that I am, the only thing that works for me is the 12-step recovery process. That's it. For me personally, I've tried everything else. So him being there for me like that is the best gift I could ever have.
Did you ever think in your lifetime you'd be looking up to your father in that kind of a way like that?
No, you know, and he's paying it back by being a grandfather to my kids. Do you know what I mean?
Wonderful.
So like that's how, like, you know, he did the best he could. I realized that he did the best he could when he was
Yeah.
when I was a kid. He was doing the best he could do. Like that's it. And so now, like, I understand the disease, so I get it. Now it's like I'm trying, like the whole family, we're trying to break the cycle.
And your mom, she never, well, of course, yeah, she was married to an addict, so obviously she got her basic training through him, so she was ready for you.
Yeah, I guess so. Like he left right when I was 1, so they were never married either. So she was an only mother.
Yeah.
I was an only child with a single mother, and but they're great friends now due to like you know the recovery process. Only because of that, you know, and so it's just cool. Like you know, my mother lives out of the country now, and so she just knows that like I'm gonna be okay for one day as long as I stay. And like you talked about, I have to surround myself with healthy people at all times, because if people aren't doing what I'm doing, or if I'm not with people who are trying to do what I'm trying to do, I have no business being around them. You know what I mean? Because from my own personal experience, there's just as many sick people in the halls and out of the halls as there are people, if not more, than well people.
Yeah,
You know,
to watch
because
the others and learn from them, like what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
You know, because like you said, like none of us are perfect around here. We just try and do the next right thing, you know, and definitely like, you know, that negativity can be very contagious.
I love it. I
you
love the
know?
negativity. I can get right back into it. And like, no, I can like that.
It's
Like
an honest program.
you know, like I can real easy. I can get into that, and
Yeah.
it's just.
John, same thing for you. Your parents, the effect they had as far as, I know Colleen, when she was using, she used to play me and Fran and her mother and the whole thing, and it took us, I don't know, how many years to finally, What about you?
For me, my story is a lot like Jonathan's. You know, my mother never enabled me with anything at a very young age. My mom kind of, like, she basically told me, if you want something, you go get it, you go work for it. And like, she was trying to teach me like how to be independent and do things on my own. And it kind of backfired because I'm lazy, so I resorted to selling drugs, like, because that was just the easy way. And you know, I moved out at 17 too, and I was on my own. So when I was drinking and smoking weed, and my mother didn't really. She didn't really say too much about it. She knew what I was doing, but like kind of figured, you know, I was going through a phase all kids do, and kind of left it alone. But when I like started doing like hard drugs and stuff, I didn't live with her or anything, and like she'd know when I was because I wouldn't talk to her. I'm really close to my mother. I talk to her all the time, and but she'd know because I wouldn't talk to her. I wouldn't call her. But no, she doesn't really understand this disease. But the one thing she did understand is there's nothing she can do, you know, until I'm ready.
Well, good for her.
You know, she'd say things here and there, and I deny it. You know, she'd be like, "I really hope you're not," and I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not getting high or anything." And she dealt with a lot of things with my sister, so you know, she knew what she was in for with it. She never really pushed me to get sober. She kind of knew that, you know, I had to do it on my own, and I wasn't gonna go till I was ready myself.
I don't like to interrupt. Just quickly, my lovely wife just told us we have 5 minutes left, if you can believe it. Your relationship with your mom now, good?
I mean, I love my mother to death, but she's definitely an enabler, and she doesn't mean to do that. She's very Italian, and she's very like loving, and like I can get anything I want out of her if I want to. I'm gonna be like honest.
Well, wait a minute.
It's
Cut that show. We don't want,
I'm not gonna tell her. I'm not gonna,
blank that out. We don't
I'm
want
not gonna give her the link to this, but yeah, I mean, I love my mother to death, but you know, she did enable me a lot. I don't think she really did it on purpose. She just didn't want to see me, you know, upset or like anything I wanted, you know. And now that I'm in recovery and she's in recovery, it's we kind of clash a lot because like she wants to work my program and sometimes I want to work her program, and it doesn't work out a lot. But I mean, yeah, I mean. She's an enabler, but like she doesn't mean to. But I love her still.
I don't mean to interrupt you guys, but I know we're gonna get 2 fingers and then 1 finger. I wish, and as a matter of fact, I'd like to have you guys come back again. You know, I know we've just scratched the surface with you. I want to thank you, and I want people to realize that when we have these guests like you come on, you're exposing yourself. you're telling them some of the depths you've been in, some of the bad things you've done, but you've also shown, that recovery works, that you guys can make it to where you are on your way. And, we all pray that, I love you guys' attitude, and I think you're going to do great, and I do hope that you will come back. I'm so sorry the half hour went by so quick.
Yeah, it did.
Well,
Yeah, thank you, all of you, for coming. This is, really important for people to hear, stories from, real people. And, nothing's written down. We're not reading anything. You guys are just speaking from the heart, your experience, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And, you even said, you turn into, a different person, when we use them. We don't talk. We just turn into, these monsters. Our disease is just present in there. And then obviously, that's not the case with the three of you right now. You know what I mean? You're sitting here talking about how much different your lives are and being willing to come and tell people about that. Even if one kid sees this and he's like, oh my God, that's my life. I did that. I want to feel better too. I want to have some hope too. Maybe I'll get some help. Just planting that seed and trying to spread the hope a little bit. So thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thank you.
and
Thanks for having us.
Oh, we have 2 minutes. Quick last words from you guys. Are you guys happy right now?
Yeah, my life is easy today. It's not as hard as it used to be. I'm not where I want to be in my life, but I know that, if I surround myself with healthy people, healthy things are going to happen. My
You're
life's
right.
just easy. I stopped fighting
It's
for
hard
me.
work being an addict, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard work being an addict.
Better to be
Guys.
in recovery than using though. That was the hardest job in the world. It was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The
Yeah.
hours were horrible.
And you didn't even get high.
No.
Guys, I'm so glad you came on the show. Again, I hope we get you back, maybe even as individuals down the road and whatever like that. I'm very proud of you for coming here, for exposing yourself the way you did. I don't even know if you guys realize, hopefully, how many people will be seeing this, not just in Methuen, but all over the whole country, because we are on YouTube now, so we are going to get some exposure. I'm not saying you guys are going to be famous. I wouldn't expect Emmy Awards or anything like that, but we sure do love you guys, and we're so happy you came. And at that, I guess we're going to say goodnight. You want to say goodnight, Cole?
Yeah, good night. Thank you for watching. Tell your friends. YouTube, The Empty Chair Show. Watch it.
Bye.